Hi, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I am Lindsay with Alight Legal Immigration Law Firm. I am an attorney who practices immigration law. Our law firm is in Washington, D.C., and we practice only immigration, but we represent clients all over the world. We try to bring you updates, helpful information about the immigration world, immigration news every Tuesday, and we hope that this information will be helpful. Now, this week we have a fun update. It is always nice to be able to bring you good news. And thankfully, last week we had some pretty major changes. Our pretty major change, or news rather, for asylum seekers in the process for applying for their work permits. And I don't know how many of you remember, it's hard to forget, but the Trump administration did put new rules into place in August of 2020. And thankfully, a district court judge in the District of Columbia has now ruled, as of last week, that the Trump administration's new work permit rules are illegal for all asylum seekers. So that means we get to revert to the old rules. This is really wonderful news because it has been very stressful for asylum seekers and their attorneys and their families and the nonprofits who serve them. So we are very, very happy to have this news that the old work permit rules will be back in place. So just to give you a brief reminder of what those new rules looked like, the Trump administration tried to change the rules so that asylum seekers had to wait an entire year before they were eligible for their work permit, instead of the old rule of 6 months. Also tried to make it eligible, or tried to make it such that if someone filed after 1 year of being in the U.S., even if you met a clear exception, you would be denied a work permit. They also tried to make it so that depending on your manner of entry into the U.S., that they could deny your work permit based on how you entered the U.S. They removed the 30-day processing rule for new applicants. And there were a host of other really harmful changes that sought to prevent as many asylum seekers as possible from being eligible to receive a work permit, which we all know is very important as you're going through this long and arduous and expensive process. So thankfully, as of February 7th, a judge in DC did rule that these work permit rules are illegal for all asylum seekers. And the case is called Asylum Works v. Mayorkas, in case you want to look it up. I know many of our viewers are actually members of Asylum Works. Our firm works very closely with Asylum Works. They're an incredible nonprofit organization located in DC, serving asylum seekers through for their social needs, and also can occasionally help with legal assistance and things like that. But their focus is making sure that asylum seekers are able to work, making sure that they're able to provide for themselves. And through this type of access, then we see asylum seekers who are more easily able to adapt to the US and deal with this process. So we do not know for sure if the lawsuit will be, or if the judge's decision will be final. Of course, we have seen over the last several years with fighting the Trump administration's attempted changes that a rule is proposed, one judge will decide one thing and then it'll get appealed. So we are still in this period that we may see an appeal. I hope that the Biden administration understands how harmful these rules were, and I hope that they take the judge's decision finding that these new rules are illegal, so that hopefully we can just stay with the 6-month eligibility, 30-day processing, being able to, get the work permit within that time period. So for now, since we're still in this period of maybe the government will appeal, we're also in this time period where USCIS hasn't published information on how they're going to implement the decision. So we still advise that you become a member of the Asylum Seekers Assistance Project, that you still file your work permit applications as a member of the Asylum Seekers Assistance Project, so that you are doubly protected right now. So one, you're protected based on a separate lawsuit that held that they couldn't implement these rules while the judge reviewed them. And then also, hopefully, you will be protected based on the judge's actual decision, now that the District Court of DC has issued this opinion. So I am going to check the comments just in case we have any questions. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Someone asked, did it affect the work permit renewal at all? So the decision, the new decision, I don't think it has impacts on the work permit renewal per se. Most of the rules apply to people who were just applying for their work permit. We have, of course, seen work permit renewals taking longer than ever. That's still an issue. I hope there will be lawsuits on that, and there have been. I hope we'll see some success. I don't know how that will end up. And someone else is saying, yes, the renewal is taking longer than the ordinary time after the 6-month extension. Yes, some of the renewals are taking longer than the automatic 6-month extension. You can try to do an expedite request if you're up against that deadline. USCIS does publish information on how to expedite, what are their requirements for expediting. See how you may be able to put your case into those categories. Super important. If you are a healthcare worker in any capacity, then you can get basically an automatic expedite. So if you filed for your work permit for the first time, if you have a work permit renewal pending, then you automatically qualify for an expedite request if you're in the healthcare field. So that is important to know. Okay, so I am going to wrap up. I just wanted to bring you this brief update. It looks like the Trump administration's terrible work permit rules are not going to stay. And if once this becomes final or if it changes, we will, of course, update you. Salamawat healthcare worker, yes. Then if your renewal is pending, please do an expedite request. You should be able to get that process quickly. And how long does it take after it expires? So I'm not sure which time period you're asking about. If the question is how long does the renewal take to be processed after the actual work permit expires, the processing times right now that they're posting are like 9+ months. So it really depends on when you file, it depends on how lucky you are when they pull your application. It's hard to say. And David, you're welcome. I'm glad I can pass on the news. And if we are an ASAP member, does the work permit renewal take longer? No, the work permit renewal doesn't take longer for ASAP members. Actually, for a very long time, they were processing these much more quickly. And you can still try to notify USCIS that you're an ASAP member and it should be processed more quickly. Although for a renewal, technically, legally, they don't have to, but sometimes they do push those through even for a renewal. And I already sent a renewal application. That's good. So as soon as you get your receipt notice that your renewal application is pending, then you can call USCIS to place the expedite request based on the fact that you are a healthcare worker. And there is information online. You can just do USCIS, how to expedite my work permit, and you should be able to find that information. Stanislav, thank you very much for your birthday wishes. Today is my birthday, and I have received sweet messages from many of you. Okay, so if anyone has questions, if anyone needs a consultation, of course, you're welcome to reach out to us. The contact information is here on the screen. I hope that I have addressed your questions. Sometimes it's difficult to see them all coming in, but happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it very much. So I'm going to wrap up. Everyone celebrate that the judge has finally made a ruling. This isn't just an injunction. This is actually a ruling by the judge. And we are very, very, very happy to see that asylum seekers won, that our asylum seekers will continue to be protected as we move forward. All right, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.